Welcome to MilSpouse Matters, the podcast dedicated to encouraging military spouses. Need some inspiration as you navigate military life, moves, deployments, raising military kids, keeping your marriage together, career issues, and more? Get an encouraging, humorous outlook from a spouse who's been there for 30 years. Join host Jen McDonald, author of You Are Not Alone, Encouragement for the Heart of a Military Spouse, who knows that we're stronger together. Jen also writes regularly for outlets such as Military Spouse Magazine and has been featured in numerous books and national publications. Grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and sit back and relax as Jen talks with military spouses both new and experienced who will give you realistic hope and support for your own MilSpouse journey.
So hey guys, today I'm here with Stacy Taylor. And I'm so excited to be talking to her today, and I know you're just going to love her. So she is an Air Force veteran, an Army spouse, Marine mom, and the mom to 2 teenage girls. She is a DoD civilian with the Department of the Army and is passionate about military families and kids. So welcome, Stacy.
Thank you so very much, Miss Jennifer. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yes. So tell listeners a little bit about you and your family, more than just the brief intro I gave, maybe about how long you've been married and some of your background in military life.
As you stated, I am a veteran. I'm an Army spouse, and I am a mom to a magnificent Marine and 2 teenage girls. I have been with the DoD for they calculated it as 20 years, but technically not. They included my military time. I enjoy running. I like to cook and bake, and all the fun things that moms do, I do.
Those are 2 hobbies that go together pretty well. The running and the baking.
It keeps me balanced, literally.
I think there's a lady that has a blog called Runs for Cookies or something like that. I was like, yes, I am there with you. Running for potato chips, running for all the carbs.
Yes.
So you just kind of briefly said your Marine son, and I think you have such a cool story about him and his wife this past year.
Yes. Living here on the East Coast, we're here at Jackson, and my son is, that's Fort Jackson. And my son, he is assigned 4 hours north in North Carolina at Camp Lejeune. So Hurricane Florence came through last year, and they evacuated Camp Lejeune. He came here to Fort Jackson to be with us. And, he had a schooling coming up in a couple of weeks. So I guess all of that just it weighed heavy on Jordan's heart, and he felt the need to go back to Texas to visit his then fiancee, Julia. And can I just say, I love my daughter-in-law to death. She's the sweetest thing.
Isn't it fun being a mother-in-law? People don't tell you how fun it is.
It really is. It really is. He went to Texas. He got up that Monday morning, and I said, why are you up so early? He says, Mom, I'm going to Texas. I said, how? He said, I'm flying to Texas. So he went back home to Texas, and, he saw Julia. My in-laws are, they still live in Texas. They retired there at Fort Hood also. And he called me back on Wednesday that same week, and he said, Mom, Julia and I are getting married tomorrow, which would have been Thursday, September 21st. So I'm at my desk, and I said, no, Jordan, you will not get married tomorrow. You just asked Dad 2 weeks ago to be your best man. We had dresses. We were ready.
Yeah.
He says, no, Mom, I have to do it now. I'm not coming back without her. They had worked it out.
Oh, I would have wanted to murder him.
I wanted to, but, his happiness in the end is all that matters. So he called me back about 10 minutes later, and he says, Mom, and this was right at 1:30 Eastern time. He says, Mom, I need a photographer. Can you reach out to one of your military friends and find a photographer? And I think you probably saw the post. And, because that whole week I had been posting about the hurricane and what was going on, at Camp Lejeune. So I just did a basic post. I need some help. And I actually messaged two spouses of mine, Teresa Johnson and Maria Mendez. And I said, do you know what's going on with Jordan? He's getting married tomorrow. I need a photographer. they both messaged me back at the same time and said, we have you. We got you. Don't worry about it. I really didn't worry about it until when I got home at 1600. There was so many messages on my Facebook, and I don't Facebook from work, so I didn't know what was going on. Teresa had then put out an all points bulletin asking for help.
So if you saw this on social media, how many months ago, that's what we're talking about. I know you saw it.
Yeah. And so I said, this is crazy, and I had a private number. It's no longer private. And different people, they were calling me saying, hey, Stacy, I want to help. They were messaging me. And I said, I'm not in Texas. There's no way I can be there tomorrow by 1. Reach out to Teresa to see what you can do to help. By this time, it was like 11 o'clock at night. Delta Airlines called me and said, Miss Taylor, we have a flight for you tomorrow. If I was not in the position I was in at that time, I could have just up and left. But I am the workflow, in my job.
That's so amazing. I didn't know that was part of it. How generous.
Delta called me. There was a lady from Delta. She was so very sweet, Jennifer. She says, and I was asleep. She said, Miss Taylor. I said, yes. She said, this is so-and-so from Delta Airlines. We have 2 tickets for you to come see your son get married.
Aww.
I said, are you kidding me? And she says, no, we do. And I said, oh my gosh, I can't just not show up to work tomorrow. And it was too late to call. So I made that decision not to go. And that next day, I went home from work and I watched the wedding virally with everyone else. And I cried so bad throughout just the whole thing. But the best thing about it is that everybody in my office was on Facebook watching the wedding too.
So you got more guests than you probably would have.
Right.
They got married because he was about to go out on deployment or training.
He was about to go to training, and the training was going to be like 8 weeks. But with the storm, and you know how the military is, if the storm knocks your schooling, it's going to be pushed to the right. And with them pushing the wedding to the right, had that happened, we wouldn't have had a wedding at all.
Yeah.
Okay. They ended up having a nice wedding, a nice reception, a honeymoon, and just everything. And so Julia, she messaged me. Well, she actually texted me and she said, the military life is a good life. I said, yeah, just, always remember to be kind to everybody because, your circle is going to come back full,
I think it's such a good reminder of what the military community can be.
Absolutely.
I think with social media and just there's what I call the dark underbelly of that sometimes is not so nice, but to focus on that positive and just see, wow, when the community comes together, it's amazing. And we would all do it for anybody.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And that was one thing that was, it was really humbling to me because my husband and I, we help families all the time, but we always say, hey, you don't have to tell anyone we did it. We're not looking for a thank you. Just, take the gift, And so being that, okay, so I'm about to cry now.
That's okay.
So being that, we help folks all the time and people are always helping me with the girls. And I always say, thank you. Please let me know what I can do for you. It was humbling when my whole community back in Texas came together for my son.
For your baby.
Right?
Yes. Aww. So I love it.
That was the most humbling thing ever. And so,
it's hard to take help sometimes, especially so I don't think you're as old as I am, but you have grown children.
Yes.
And I think we're used to, we want to help because we've been there. We want to help.
Yes.
It's easier to help.
Yes.
And it's harder to still receive.
It is so hard to receive it, but it's a humbling thing to receive it, and it shows you that there are good people out there, but I was so happy that for the civilians, because civilians came through too, but I was just proud that it was my military family that was there to help us, in that time. And, I will never forget it. I will always know their anniversary. My husband says, we will always know the kids' anniversaries, even if I forget ours,
Well, all you have to do is Google search it real quick.
I know, right?
Oh my goodness. So what, is there a page or something that has the video of that if somebody wants to look at it that I can link to if you haven't seen it by chance?
Yeah. So Teresa Johnson, she has everything on her page, and her page is wide open. Like she's got everything out there. So, and as a matter of fact, I just want to put out there, speaking of military spouses, and today is Military Spouse Appreciation Day. Teresa and we had never met. We never met. We met via Facebook. We were in some of the same groups out of Fort Hood, but we never met. But we met this weekend. She flew here to the Carolinas, and we ran a half marathon together. And so, it's...
just a quick little get to know you.
Right. And we did it
Let's run 13 miles.
Let's just run 13 miles. It's all good, and it was fun. It was humbling for the both of us, and we have so many things in common.
Isn't that wonderful?
She's been married 29 years. I've been married 25 years. So it's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
Talking about friendship, you were active duty. I don't know how long you were active duty, and then becoming a military spouse. If you look over the course of all those years, how much have friendships in the military world meant to you? I think you expressed it a little bit.
Yes.
But other than this huge event, what have military friendships meant to you as a military spouse?
So you're correct. I was in the Air Force. I was in for 14 years. I have no shame in telling anyone I had a stroke, and I've done very well in my healing process.
Well, obviously, if you couldn't run 13 miles, you're doing okay.
God is good. My military friends that I served with, some of them have retired. Some of them are here with me now at Fort Jackson. But the transition from active duty to being a military spouse was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I mean, I had a title. That was my identity. So I had to learn how to be that wife, be that mom, and wear a suit to work. And the whole communication is different in the civilian world, because I went into the private sector over at Baylor Healthcare first. And that was quite an adjustment. And after that, I went over to the VA, to the Department of Veteran Affairs. And that was where I found my niche. And I realized then that my calling was to serve in a different capacity for our veterans and our veterans' families, and for our active duty soldiers. So I just basically immersed myself in any and everything that had to do with our military community, so that I can give back in different ways, be it should someone need information on anything. Regarding the VA especially, they normally just message me and I can point them in the right direction to someone that works at a VA, in their local area. And as far as friendships is concerned, I've made some of my best girlfriends as a spouse. I'm heavily involved in the PWOC and our FRG.
And if people don't know what that is, the Protestant Women of the Chapel, which is basically, I think, every chapel and every service now.
Absolutely.
In every branch.
Absolutely.
Well, and I'm kind of curious if you had a preconception about military spouses, military wives coming from the active duty side.
So I did.
Well, let's talk about it.
And I'm so embarrassed to say that.
No, don't be, because I think it's helpful.
I'm so ashamed of myself right now, because I did. I honestly thought, military spouses, they've got the life. They sit home all day. This was before I became one now. They sit home all day. They keep their kids. They cook dinner. That's the life,
How hard could that be?
Right? And I realized, oh my gosh, this is tough, because my husband's gone. Especially during hurricane season. I always have to do it by myself because of his job. And I have teenagers. And that was hard for me.
Yeah.
So any misconception about a military spouse that anyone on active duty has, no. There's just a lot of work to be done. I have a full-time job here at my house, on my job. I'm a full-time mother-in-law, because my daughter-in-law texts me more than my kids do. So, yes, I did have a misconception, and I'm totally embarrassed by that.
Well, but then you can help others get beyond that as well.
Absolutely.
And I guess I'm wondering what helped you get past that. Was it just kind of having your eyes open? Was it any kind of specific experience with your friendships?
Yes, because military life for spouses, it's a lonely life. It really is if you don't have a true tribe. And in Texas, when we got back to Texas, I didn't have a tribe at first. And I was at my loneliest point. So I decided to just go out and just start meeting people and not being a hermit. Because like I said, I was still trying to adjust. I didn't know how to communicate with people unless we were talking shop. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I had to learn, what do y'all talk about? What do y'all do? And so
it's a different language.
Right? And so, I went on to just, find that group. And I started at the chapel.
Yeah.
That's where I started. And
that's a good place to start.
Yeah. Yeah. And even when we got here to Fort Jackson, I went to the chapel. Although I had a Department of the Army job, I still needed a tribe of good, wholesome people, because we all need motivating along the way. And I started at the chapel, and I fell in love with every spouse there. I made some of my best friends there. And anytime someone were to PCS, I would never go to their farewell because I can't, I normally send
you don't like goodbyes.
Yeah, I don't do well.
Yeah. You have to just say, see you later. I did learn that early on. I was like, I can't say goodbye. Cause you never know. You could end up crossing paths. I crossed paths with a couple of friends 2 and 3 times. And then there were some people I didn't want to cross paths with.
Okay.
Because that would happen too. I'm like, oh, hey, it's you. And the longer you're in, the smaller that world gets as well. Well, and I guess too, as far as the military spouse side looking at, especially females, I think there's been a lot of things written about the relationships between military wives and female service members. And you and I had talked about this before, just the misconceptions that go both ways. I did see, unfortunately, some bad treatment of female service members by certain spouses. And I just was like, I will never do that. They're just people. At the end of the day, we're all still living somewhere that's not our home. We're all still going through PCS and deployments. And I always wanted to make sure to just look for that common ground and treat them as people and try to be as friendly as possible. And then if it didn't go well, it wasn't because of me. But that was always so well received. And even just at an event, walking up to them and just talking to them. And sometimes I'd get a comment like, none of their spouses will ever talk to us. It's almost like they're afraid. So what would you say to that, to your fellow spouses about being a better friend to the female service members?
Well, I mean, just yesterday I was in a meeting after work. It was FRG. And there were some new folks, green suitors, as we call them here in the Army, that, they were there. And I remember how I felt. I went up to each one of them. I said, hey, my name is Stacy Taylor, yada, yada, yada. And I had a full-blown conversation with a group of 10 of them at one time. I just think it's imperative to be able and to make yourself available to all women, all walks of life. I'm a firm believer of that, of just being that person to, I guess, break the ice, kind of, sort of, maybe. Yeah.
Be the first one to smile. Be the first one to say hello. It won't hurt anything.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt anything at all.
I think maybe the older we get, the more comfortable we are with that. When I was young spouse, I was still trying to figure out my own way, and I just didn't even think about it, honestly. You kind of grow into that, but yeah, if you can just have your eyes open to that early on, it just makes everything better for everybody.
I think if I could go back and tell myself anything at all when I first got out of the military and became the spouse, I think it would be, you know what, just have a good time along the way, make friends, know no stranger, and be yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was so used to fitting into the mold that people, that people wanted me to fit into. And I think that was a barrier there. And I would go back and tell myself to bring your walls down some and let some people in.
Yeah. That's good advice.
Right. That's the one thing I would go back and tell brand new spouse Stacy. But the older I get, I'm over 40, I'm just comfortable now.
Yeah.
Things don't bother me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm more comfortable with my role in my home, in my professional life, and just with everything. And that comes with time, and that comes with growth.
Sure.
So, yeah.
And I think too, is you hit a certain age and you're still young, but you hit a certain age and I think you kind of go, take it or leave it. I'm not going to pretend anymore. This is who I am. And
this is who I am.
Exactly.
This is who I am.
She's going to break into song, guys.
Yeah, this is me, and and I was telling my husband, I said, Poppy,
I love that.
I'm on a new diet again this week. This was a while back, and I said, I'm going into 2019. I'm going to eat what I want to eat. I'm not going to keto. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to enjoy life. Uh-huh. And he says, wow, Stace, that sounds like the advice of a 40-plus-year-old woman. I said, okay.
Yeah, so my husband's a couple years older than me. And I had my 50th birthday this past week, and
I saw that. I said, oh my word, she looks beautiful.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, you're beautiful. You're flawless, Miss Jennifer.
No,
like, for real.
You're very sweet. Definitely not. That's very sweet though, and I thank you. But all week he just kept saying stuff about, "Ooh, you're turning 50." Oh, and I was like, "You're like 52." So I think you're just happy that I'm joining you,
right?
This one was a little different for me. Not to get off too far of a tangent, but this one was a little bit different for me because I don't know that I've ever felt weird about milestones. I've never lied about my age or been that kind of person. I don't care. But this one was like, wow, I will just not be in my 40s anymore. And I've been in my 40s for a while. So this is different. But it's okay, because what's the alternative?
Absolutely. And looking back, in my 30s, I was not put together the way that I am now. I think with every year, I'm getting better. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I couldn't have run a half marathon in my 30s.
Me neither.
I just didn't have the mindset. I just didn't have the mindset.
I started running at 45. I've written some stuff about this. People that have followed my blog and stuff know all this already. But I started running when I was 45. And then I ran my half marathon. Was I 46? And I still intend to do a marathon. And part of me is like, this is getting a little old to be doing something like that for the first time. But I am determined. I'm going to do it. I'm going to check that off the list at least once. So yeah, I'm right there with you. It's definitely not easy. And it's not going to be for it. It's not going to be fast. Well, before we run out of time, I do want to touch on something that you've alluded to several times, and that is your own faith. And I wanted to just give you an opportunity to talk about that for a moment, about how your faith has impacted your marriage and your family and even just military life.
Oh my goodness. Oh, wow.
That's a broad question.
Yeah, but my faith. Anytime I talk about my faith, I get very emotional because, being in the military, you're constantly moving and you're always looking for that church. And no shame here, guys. My husband and I, we had been searching for a long time for that church. And we moved here and we found what we were missing in our lives. And after being a part of this church for so long and watching my faith grow in him, I saw an overall change in my household with my teenage daughters, my husband, my finances, our finances, just the way we communicate with one another. My husband, he doesn't say much, Jennifer. You know that. He's not a talker. He doesn't smile.
If you follow Stacy on Instagram, they're a beautiful couple, but he will not crack a smile.
But he's my poppy, and that's just who he is and so what he does. So we realized that, it was time to definitely go that step forward. And I had been toggling with it all last year about the possibility of being baptized. And the first Sunday this year, January 2019, I was caught up in such emotion in church. Immediately after church, I went to see one of the ladies, and in tears, I said, I need to be baptized.
Oh, wow.
And she just hugged me and she said, Stacy, I've been waiting on you to say that, and so not shortly thereafter, I'm going through the baptism classes, and I noticed that my husband had set up a meeting with our pastor, and 2 weeks later, well, maybe 3 weeks later, I found out that my husband was getting baptized. He said, Stacy, I'm getting baptized. I said, really? He said, yes. Fast forward maybe 6 weeks later, our daughter, our 16-year-old Lexi, she and Reagan, the other daughter, 15, they went to a retreat. They were on a retreat the whole weekend with the church, and Lexi texted me, and I said, Lex, are you okay? And she says, Mom, I'm crying right now because I found Christ as my Savior. And I said, oh my gosh.
Wow.
So I'm crying
That's
on
pretty
the phone.
recent.
Yes.
Wow.
And so I'm crying, texting Lexi, and my husband's like, are you okay? And I showed him the text, and he said, thank you, Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
And so we got baptized as a family the last weekend in March.
Wow.
I had to postpone it because of, my accident I had.
Yeah.
My back was out of whack. So, but we got baptized the last weekend in March, and I'm a true follower of Christ.
That's amazing.
And, when people interact with me, I want them to see the Christ in me. I really do,
That's wonderful. I love that so much. Are you okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
I am.
Thank you for sharing that. And that just,
Thank you.
I think the thing about Stacy, she's so open. So I met her, big finger quotes, met her online a couple years back and have followed her. So if anybody wanted to connect with you, would you be open to, I can't remember if your Instagram is private or if it's,
It's private, but I accept everybody. I'm an open book.
your name is so cute. What is it again? It's Stacy and
It's on Instagram it's I am Stacy, Staceee, I am Stacee, and I just have us labeled Stacy and Poppy because he and I we share the.
So
Instagram
he's gonna be like,
account.
why am I getting all these requests?
He says, I don't touch it.
So we'll link to that so you can follow her adventures of faith and military spouse life and running and all that good stuff. Well, I appreciate you being so vulnerable and open. I think if somebody is coming to that point of realizing they need God in their lives or need to make a change or, God's been working on your heart, this might be the perfect time for them to be hearing this because especially when you feel like you've got your life all figured out and you've been doing this thing for a while and you're okay. Not always.
Absolutely. You're exactly right. But I will say this has been the happiest I've ever been in my 46 years of life. And I've come full circle now, I think.
Yeah.
I really think I've come full circle. I still have a lot of growth.
We all do.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I think this has been absolutely wonderful. And I'm sorry I have to close out our time because I feel like I could talk to you for another couple of hours.
That's okay. It's been fun.
Maybe we'll have you on for a part two at some point. And like I said, if you want to connect with Stacy, I'll link to her Instagram. I think that would probably be the best place unless there's any place else you wanted to. Yeah. So, well, thank you for sharing. And I think your tips about, active duty and military spouses are so good. And I just love your son's story. You have a lot of good stuff to share. Maybe you're going to be writing your own book
definitely.
one day. Well, did you have anything else to add, Stacy?
No, I just think, we all should just really just strive to always see the good in people. You never know who's going through something. We all grew up with our parents saying, always smile and say something nice to someone because you don't know what they're going through. And that is really a true statement coming from healthcare, Suicide in our military is like huge right now. So I would me personally, I always try to be that ear and that confidant that person needs, I always say to my kids, practice a little kindness, and as adults, sometimes we need to be reminded too, to practice a little kindness and don't go looking for dirt on people, find the good in people, because everybody has some good in them.
I love that. Well, thank you. Thank you again for coming on. I really enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you.
And hey, everybody, thanks so much for listening, and connect with Stacy. And I hope you guys all have an amazing week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Connect with Jen at jenmcdonald.net or on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can also purchase her book, You Are Not Alone, Encouragement for the Heart of a Military Spouse at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and other booksellers. Love the show? Don't forget to leave a review on iTunes. Until next time, have a great week.